Well, the other advantage with the area rep model is that because you have those boots on the ground, that you're getting another level of or layer of feedback that you wouldn't normally get with just the single unit franchise.
It's not, and it's the layer of feedback is really important, not just because it's more feedback. Feedback's great, but because the way they think is very different. So the person that's a single unit franchisee has a completely different way of thinking and perspective, and they're wonderful. You need them. But the area rep, that type of personality, they see the model, they see, where things can be tweaked in a whole different way.
What about in terms of what do you look for in an area rep? I wanted to let's start with the area rep, then we're going to kind of drill down to a individual franchisee. But what are the most common traits you think of a successful area rep for your business, and who is that person? What's their background, and what do you look for?
So what I'm looking for, and so far what we've found, which is amazing, are people that have experience already as multi-unit franchisees. They don't need to have experience being an area rep, but if they are multi-unit franchisees, even if it's multi-brand, multi-unit, that's even better. They usually have a infrastructure already built, which is great, marketing, different things already in their head offices, and they can really leverage that to grow because they need to be operationally focused. They need to be marketing focused and just understanding like the day-to-day grind as well, right? And what it's like to open multi locations at the same time. Somebody that has that experience won't get overwhelmed as somebody that doesn't. Somebody that comes in, their growth will be a little bit slower. I'm looking for people that I'm happy to work with those people as well, but I'm looking for people that are really wanting to grow right and quickly as sustainable as possible.
Yeah. Well, they're playing at a higher level too, because if they have franchise owners that are relying on them, then they're ultimately responsible for making sure that those franchise owners are successful, are happy, and are getting the right coaching. So that's why having that multi-unit franchise or multi-brand experience is probably really critical.
Yeah, and somebody that can look at, their performers or look at their financials, go in and look at the POS systems, all the stuff, and just see where the red flags too, because sometimes you don't know why are they not doing the franchisee not doing as well as they should be doing. You know what their targets are, you know where they should be hitting, but somebody with that knowledge already can go and look and see little red flags before they become problems and then fix those things, like, hey, you're not getting involved. Like something as simple as you're not getting involved in your community. You need to be more involved. You need to do more of the guerrilla type marketing, right? Go get out there, get the boots on the ground. Those types of things they can notice really quickly.
How big is the territory for an area rep?
So we are working with about 150,000 people per unit for the area rep,
Okay.
depending on the demographics that are in that area. It's not as simplistic as a number of population, but
And okay, and now let's drill down to the single unit franchise that you guys offer. First off, how big is the territory for a single unit franchise?
so the model is, again, it's going to depend on the area, but it's a radius of 1 to 3 miles or 125,000 population.
Okay. And what do you look for in a single unit franchise operator?
I'm looking for somebody, most importantly, that is a cultural fit, and almost equally, I should say, it's equally as important, is somebody that wants to be involved in their local community. Either they already are or they have a passion. One of my candidates right now is all about, just bringing up her local people, building the community itself, building people in the community, hiring from within the community, all of that, just giving back to the community, whether it's through charities or whatever. So those are the people we really are looking for because they're the ones that are going to build the following, the passionate following. I'm looking for that. That's where our customer base is.
Yeah. The day-to-day responsibilities of a single unit franchise owner, do you expect them to hire a manager, or do you expect them to be running the business day to day and being there? What's your philosophy?
So we do have a couple different types of models. So they may have one franchise location or they may end up buying multiples. We have a concierge system and we have groomers. And then we can also have managers or not, depending how they're set up. So if they're set up where they are the day-to-day operator, they don't have a manager. They would be the manager. Okay. And then we also have a concierge team where that's hour per hour. So the concierge team is where the pet parent walks in with the dog. The concierge team takes the dog, checks the dog, makes sure it's not covered in fleas, something like that, and then takes it into the groomers. They're also the person that is talking about the bakery and the retail items, CBD products, all of that stuff, the knowledge source, right? That can be the franchisee, or it can be somebody that is hired separately to be, but it's an hour per hour. So if the store is open 72 hours a week, then we need a concierge 72 hours.
Sure. Okay. Tell me what the investment range is for the franchise.
So depending on the square footage and where it's located, it's a roughly 200 to 400 all in. Now that's franchise fee, working capital, build out, everything. I am right now streamlining things and working on, how to value engineer things all the time, making it less expensive to build out. But that's roughly right now, whether it's in Texas or Atlanta or, Illinois, something, it hasn't gone over 400 yet.
Okay. What about the footprint size of a typical location?
So for that cost, it's been about 2,000 square feet for that cost. Now, the ideal footprint that I'm looking to get into is for a single location would be anywhere from 1,300 square feet to 1,700 square feet. The reason we have bigger ones is with the area rep model, if they have a bigger square footage, they can have it as their training center as well, whether it's for the franchisees, for the groomers, things like that. So more square footage helps in that scenario.
Okay. If I'm an area rep, how many franchises am I typically going to have underneath me?
The minimum would be
My
10.
umbrella location.
So yeah,
About 10?
anywhere from 10 and up, and it will depend on their, the level of franchisee that they are coming in as.
Right. Okay. Sally, you've been in franchising for a while, like I said. What's been your biggest surprise since you've embarked in this industry?
I never cease to be amazed at the same thing. And you would think after all these years, I have gotten used to it, but I haven't yet. So it's the sheer amount of how even your direct competitor will share their secret sauce. And I say this because I literally just went through this last week. I flew out across the country to Florida and I met with a direct competitor. We're different business models, but still overlapping quite a bit. And he happily spent time with me, drove me around to a bunch of his locations, just spent a lot of time with me one-on-one. So I'm ever grateful for that. And for industry of franchising in general, it's just that's, across the board, almost everybody's like that.
It is special. It was probably one of my biggest surprises too, entering the industry. I didn't know what to expect back in 2003 and going to my first IFA event and seeing direct competitors, witnessing it, at a round table that were direct competitors sharing detailed information on how they awarded franchises or the techniques that they used in training and stuff. And I was blown away. Probably the last thing I expected.
It's amazing. I think we all realize there's a lot of fish in the sea. Every brand is a little bit different. I'm not trying to replicate somebody else, so we can share that and share best practices. And at the end of the day, if we're good franchisors, we want the franchisees to succeed, in general. And if we can share best practices, that helps.
Yeah. Well, with best practices come mistakes that we've made. And I know I've made my share of them. And I try to learn from my mistakes and not make them twice, right? Would you be willing to share maybe a mistake or maybe a challenge that you faced and how you overcame it?
I can tell you one. Again, it was a recent mistake due to being too busy, which is bad. You should never be too busy. I was not a good leader and did not go to my franchise location and see directly what was happening in the franchise location. I relied on employees and what they told me. And because of that, I missed out on very valuable information and I wasn't able to be the leader that I should have been and help that franchisee in the way they needed. I ended up going, but it was delayed. We could have solved the problems months earlier had I gone sooner. And that's actually a recent thing. And I knew better and I still did it. And you know what? I'm not going to make that mistake again. So,
Sally, I made the same mistake, and I know all of us have. There is something to be said about that face-to-face with franchise owners. They need it, and we get caught up in running the business or trying to work on the business. But sometimes when we get caught up in running the business, we forget who is most important, and there's nobody more important than our franchise owners. And one of the things I try to keep in front of mind is that running a franchise, whether you're the franchisor or franchisee, it is a lonely business, especially for franchisees. And when they don't know when they're not feeling the love and the support and getting that face-to-face time, they make up things in their head, right? We all do that. We try to piece things together, and we start coming up with, oh my gosh, here are the things that are wrong, and here's all the problems. And just spending a little bit of time with your franchise owners goes such a long way. The goodwill is tremendous.
It really is. It was a valuable lesson to relearn because I knew it, right? And I think that's all of us, especially we've been doing this a long time. We know these things, but sometimes we got to learn again. I had to. And it was a good lesson because now I like undercover bots, how they go back and they go undercover and they see how removed they are from the business. Well, I think that's something that if we can keep it on front of mind and keep going out there as the leader, doesn't matter you have employees doing it or not, as the leader, keep going out there, keep building that relationship with those people because, franchisees are the most, like you said, the most important people in the business. Of course, customers are as well, but, franchisees are really important and to keep that relationship going and communication. Yeah, valuable lesson.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.